I got to apologize before this next clip. I feel bad. I shouldn't do this to you, but I have to. Sorry. Brace yourself. Brace yourself. In the immortal words of Duke from Rocky. Brace yourself. Oof. Harriet Hageman wants you to know an important detail. There's a lot of questions. How many of our government officials and leaders, world leaders, are talking to demons? That's a question. Very important question. Where, are there more classified documents in the wind? Have they been mishandled? All those important questions. But there's an answer to a question that no one asked that Harriet Hageman wants you to know. And the answer is Hunter Biden is a talentless person. He has no talent. He's a no-talent bum. She doesn't like his paint. She bought 6 of them, and nobody comes over. Okay.
Welcome back to The Record. And Wyoming...
Oh, wow, this is a Greta Van Susteren clip. I didn't know that. It's very exciting. Greta Van Susteren, for those of you who don't know, used to be on Fox and took Greg Kelly's sweet primetime spot and pushed him to 10 o'clock. We like Greta, just for that reason.
Congresswoman Harriet Hageman is with us. Nice to talk to you.
Did she say Hegwitch? She said Hegwitch. I think she said it.
And Wyoming Congresswoman Harriet Hageman is with us. Nice.
Hegminch. Close enough.
To talk to you.
Thank you, Greta. It's great to be here.
She's excited too, Harriet.
I want to talk a little bit about the committee that you're on, the House Judiciary Committee on the Weaponization of the Federal Government. And you're a new member of Congress. And tell me, what are sort of your thoughts, your plans with this committee? What are you going to do with it?
What is this?
Well, I think over the last couple of years, we've seen some pretty disturbing trends in terms of what the federal government has been doing.
Oh, no. Yeah. It's very trendy these days.
From the Twitter files, their efforts to suppress the First Amendment rights of American citizens.
No, that's not at all found in the Twitter files at all. Not at all. Not even close. Please continue.
Has been pretty incredible. And so
yes, it's not credible. I agree. There is no credibility to it at all.
So we've now held 2 hearings about the First Amendment. The first one, we had folks like Tulsi Gabbard and Senators Johnson and Grassley talk about how the FBI targeted them to prevent them from being able to investigate and disclose Hunter Biden's laptop.
Which none of that actually happened. They had access to everything that was available, period.
We also have had Jonathan Turley, and then this a couple of weeks ago, we brought in 2 journalists to talk about the Twitter.
Well, so-called journalists.
Files. So one of the issues that we're focusing on is the violation of the First Amendment right of American citizens. Well, and actually all of us, because we not only have a First Amendment right to speak, we also have a First Amendment right to hear.
No, we don't. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that the Founding Fathers did not think there was a God-given right for people in the Arizona territories to know what was going on in the former colonies, so much so that they provided, I don't know, a socialist newspaper infrastructure that guarantees information to everyone. You do not have a right to hear. Yeah, is there a bigger violation of people's right to privacy? What the fuck are you talking about? I have the right to say anything I want, and I have the right to stick a glass up to my neighbor's house and stand on their property. Get the fuck out of here.
And then I think some of the other issues we will be addressing will be surveillance. I think that we're living in a surveillance state right now.
What do you think that means? Do you think because people, as one of the newer and weirder members of Congress, following you around with cameras, that's the surveillance state? I can't even say something racist anymore. People are up my keister.
And the FBI has been taking on that role with gusto.
Well, and verve and a peaked view of a certain vivaciousness.
It seems, and so
gusto. I find their surveillance zesty myself.
Again, I think that this is an opportunity for us to expose what's going on with the federal government and making sure that we are not allowing these kinds of behaviors that you see in either third world countries, dictatorships, or communist countries. This is the way they behave. We don't behave this way in our country with our constitutional rights.
How do you convince half
But I do think it's important that we track women's periods.
the country who thinks that it's sort of weaponization of Congress? I mean, how do you convince them that your mission isn't political? Because some of the people who probably support President Biden and his son are saying that that you're going after him or going after his family or after Hallie Biden for $25,000 or $35,000. I mean, how does the committee go about convincing the American people that this is not political payback?
They're communists and Marxists and evil people, and they worship demons, so we don't have to convince them.
Well, from the standpoint of the Biden family, what we have to understand is a couple of things. To what extent have they been taking money from foreign countries, and that is impacting our foreign policy, for example?
Yeah, I would start with hinky elements of foreign policy that seem to go against the will of the people. And then go, there's got to be a reason for this beyond a difference of opinion or decision making, right? Because again, the CHIPS Act, the AUKUS agreement, the doubling down, like we still have the Trump sanctions, and there's the Biden administration has added more on top of that. The tightening of the Made in America rules affects China. So if none of those had happened, you'd go, okay, why did he come in and immediately ditch all of Trump's China sanctions and open up and allow them to do whatever? And then you go, it has to be something else. It isn't. It is, I mean, what they're accusing everybody of going after Trump for, which is hating him, so you just are looking for a crime, is precisely what she's describing here.
I have to question why in the world Joe Biden will not crack down on China.
At this point, she has to mean bomb China, because that's the only thing. That's the only next step. The shit. Again, CHIPS Act, AUKUS agreement, doubling down and adding to the sanctions on China, denying them the ability to, like, specifically in the CHIPS Act, like setting China back over a decade technologically, threatening the military force to protect Taiwan if they are attacked. First president ever in my lifetime to do that. What the fuck is he talking about? She talking about? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to misgender. I just thought it was George Santos for 1 second. Like if you squint.
Fentanyl issue as an example.
I'm sorry, the Sentinel?
In the world, Joe Biden will not crack down on China. The fentanyl issue as an example.
Okay, again, the largest number of deaths in American history from fentanyl specifically, it cracked 100,000 on drugs that arrived in the country during the Trump administration period, end of story. Let's see. Let's see. Centers 20. Trying to go U.S. rate. I only have the 2020 numbers. Let's see. Well, let's see. Here's the rate of. More than 932,000 people have died of from drug overdoses. In 2020, 91,000. 10% of the people that died in the last 20 years died in 2020. The age-adjusted rate of overdose deaths increased by 31%, from 21.6 per 100,000 in 2019 to 28.3 in 2020. So the death rate the age-adjusted rate of overdose death increased from 2019 to 2020 by 31%. Let's see. Fentanyl deaths. Let's see. Fentanyl deaths, U.S. Let's see, 2017 through 2022. There we go. So, fentanyl is the no synthetic opioids is the number one. No, where is it? Yes, it is. Okay, here we go. So this is the number. Let me bring this up if I can. Okay, this is the latest numbers we have. This is 2015. Like, they're definitely on the rise. This is availability of the drug rising. It jumps up in 2017, drops in 2018, rises in 2019. Then from 2019 to 2020, 20,000 more people. Look at the leap here. Now, the leap between 2019 and 2020 is bigger than the leap between 2020 and 2021. And again, Trump was president for the first month of the year. Like, there were no policies by the Biden administration about this for at least a month into it. So you can divide that 91,000 over 12 months and chuck a number in on this one, which would make the leap in terms of the numbers that you could shave off right about there. That would be the jump in terms of while Biden is president. Again, look at this fucking spike that happens. This is an election year. Here we go into these guys. And then look at that. Look at that right there. The fentanyl issue. Is it? Okay, so let's look at how the Biden fentanyl China. Oh wait. This is the sorry. This is March 14th, 2023. Trump's results act. Hold on. Let me go to news real quick. This is an article from Politico. Biden and the fentanyl hawks. The other border crisis. Political pressure has been piling on Joe Biden to stop illicit flow of fentanyl across the U.S. border, but the president won't entertain GOP ideas to designate Mexican drug cartels, terrorist groups, or threaten military action. Politico's Carmen Pan reports. Last week, Lindsey Graham said he and John Kennedy plan to introduce legislation that would label Mexican drug cartels as foreign terrorist organizations so the U.S. would have more power to prosecute them and the Chinese companies supplying raw materials for fentanyl. Biden's solution, sanctions. The National Security Council spokesperson told Politico the U.S. already has powerful sanction authorities specifically designed to combat narcotics trafficking organizations and the individuals and entities that enabled them. Since February, the Treasury Department has sanctioned a Mexican arms trafficker for supplying weapons to the cartel del Jalisco Nueva Generacion and 8 Mexican companies linked to timeshare fraud for the cartel, which traffics fentanyl and other drugs. And diplomacy. The White House and Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador released a joint statement on Friday pledging cooperation to combat fentanyl trafficking. Two sides discussed a program to improve U.S.-Mexican interagency coordination and bilateral sharing of criminal intelligence to target key nodes in the drug supply chain. Mexican U.S. officials met in 2 months in Washington. Will meet in 2 months in Washington, D.C. to further review and analyze the effectiveness of the enhanced policies to improve intelligence, information sharing, and transnational criminal organization. On Monday, Semaphore reported that the Biden administration plans to ask China for help combating the fentanyl crisis. China is the primary source of the chemicals used to make the deadly synthetic version of the drug. Pandemic fell, you're not alone, okay, blah, blah, blah. According to confidential emails seen by, this isn't, all right, this is a jump story. We'll go back in here. Biden administration sanctions. Yeah, there you go. Biden administration sanctions Mexican drug cartel network for supplying and operating fentanyl labs. The Biden administration on Wednesday sanctioned a network of Sinaloa cartel members and associated entities for their involvement in illegal and deadly fentanyl and methamphetamine trade, providing chemicals to super labs that produce illicit drugs for the cartel once run by the notorious drug lord Joaquin El Chapo Guzman. In addition to sanctioning the two brothers running the network, Ludim Zamudio Lerma and Luis Alfonso Zamudio Lerma, the U.S. Treasury also designated 4 other Mexican nationals and Sinaloa cartel members, as well as 6 Mexico-based companies. The action Wednesday was coordinated closely with Mexican authorities. The other sanctioned members of the notorious cartel include those folks, their kids, their drug trafficking stability. While China is the primary source of illicit fentanyl in the United States before 2019, patterns changed after the Chinese imposed stricter controls in the drug trade, according to the Congressional Research Service. Since then, Mexico-based organizations like the Sinaloa cartel source precursor chemicals from China, then produce the illicit drugs in Mexican labs before shipping them to the United States. And there's the report that they're referencing. What do you know?
Theft of our intellectual property is another example.
Mm-hmm. She came in too late to vote against the CHIPS Act, but she would have.
Yet this administration is doing nothing to hold China accountable for the illegal acts and the activities that they are doing against the best interests of the United States of America.
The best interests of the United States. Nothing. Nothing. No, you're sure about that word?
This isn't about going after his family. This is about exposing what Joe Biden was involved with, both as vice president as well as since then. So these are legitimate investigations. And as far
if you have to say that, aren't you ice skating uphill?
the other thing is, if the government can turn on conservatives, which is what we're seeing right now, and
then we should be able to turn on liberals. That's how it should work. It's vengeance. Thanks for just dumping it, dummy.
Was exposed with the Twitter files. They can turn on anyone. The point is we have our rights as guaranteed by the Bill of Rights, by our Constitution.
Excuse me, by the Lord.
And we have the right to due process. We have the right to freedom of religion and freedom of speech. It doesn't just apply to conservatives. It applies to everyone. And everyone should be concerned when you have an all-powerful government targeting people because of their political beliefs.
I'm confused. So if let's say the all-powerful government was targeting people because of their political beliefs, how did the Republicans manage to take the House? I know it was a whisker, but if that's the only criteria for attacking people is just their political beliefs, you disagree with them, and so therefore you will attack them. If that's the case, then where'd you get all the voters from? Why is Mike Pillow walking around free? You see what I mean? Because I've been online. There seem to be a lot of Republicans on there feeling very free these days to let their freak flag fly.
All right, you and I both were trial lawyers at one time. Do you have any proof that President Biden in any way jeopardized?
Oops. See her eyes when that happened? Wait. Greta, what? She's smiling. We were both trial lawyers. Do you have any proof?
Do you have any proof that President Biden in any way jeopardized national security, or is it just you're gathering evidence at this point? But is there any proof that he did anything?
We're gathering the evidence at this.
Okay. Yeah. Have you gathered? One would think, how much evidence of a crime do you have to gather before you can refer to said evidence as evidence and explain the fucking crime? What's the gathering of the evidence? What evidence do you still need to gather?
Point, I would never prejudge something just to.
No, of course not. She's about to prejudge something.
For the very reason that you just said, which is that I'm a 34-year trial attorney. I want to gather the evidence. I want to look at it. I want to interview the witnesses, look at the documentation, look at the emails and that sort of thing. And then we can put together a better understanding of what actually has occurred here.
Let's just say you have a situation. You show up. So the police called. You called the police yourself to a place, because I don't know how. There's no analogy that makes any fucking sense in this. But let's say it's a murder, but there's no body. There's no stain where the body might have been. No one is missing, and you're only there because you think someone seems murdery. You think they just, that guy seems like he could kill somebody. I think we need to look for a body. Where? What are you talking about? Who's missing? Nobody. But still, look how murdery that guy looks. He's just all murdery. There's got to be a knife around here somewhere. I mean, turn this place upside down. What are we looking for? Anything. Burglary tools. Diamonds. A black woman. It's a line from the movie Burglar. Don't get excited. I love that movie. Anyways.
But you really do have to question what is going on in Ukraine in light of the fact that Joe Biden, as vice president, bragged about the fact that he forced them to fire a prosecutor.
That the entire U.S. government and the EU and the administration asked him to do.
Or he was going to withhold federal U.S. aid if they didn't do his bidding. And then you look at the fact that...
All right, again, how do they fit their head around the idea that a guy that would, I guess it's because they're Trump supporters. I just answered my own question. All right, so Trump brags about grabbing women by the pussy and thinks that's a winning message. Biden brags about being sent to Ukraine with a mission on behalf of the administration, and one that the entire EU, the UN agrees on, and getting it done. He's like, well, son of a bitch, it gets done. What do you know? Because I wasn't afraid to call it. He was given the right to negotiate using those terms, and he used them. But these people see that. He was on a panel talking about it. He wasn't afraid to talk about it because there was nothing hinky about it. That he was sent with a job. He did the job. He was patting himself on the back for doing the fucking job. Meanwhile, they see it through the window of everybody hates Trump for bragging about grabbing women by the pussy, so we can hate Biden for bragging about doing the job he was asked to do by the President of the United States. You fucking dum-dum.
Hunter Biden is really a pretty talentless person.
Thank you for not prejudging people. That's sweet. You know what I mean? And it's nice to know that Greta Van Susteren isn't depressed to have you on as a guest. It doesn't show at all.
He's admitted he doesn't have any knowledge about oil and gas development.
He's an investment broker. He doesn't have to. I got news for you. Not all tech angel investors can code.
Have any knowledge about these foreign policy issues that he was involved in, yet he made millions and millions and millions of dollars
as a guardian of investors' money. He also partnered with people that knew more of the middle zone stuff about the details of the product that they were working on at Burisma, in this case, natural gas. His partners were more in depth in that. The idea is that because of his name, that money wasn't going to disappear.
While his father was vice president and since then. So you're talking about someone who doesn't really have much of a skill set other than making money off of foreign governments. And I think that we need to look at that.
So, and again, if you're going to start with, there is no body, there is no murder weapon, there is no nothing, I just don't like that guy. He looks like a murderer to me. So let's search his property to see if we can find a dead body, even though no one is missing. The same thing, they're trying to apply this to Hunter Biden as well around Ukraine, which apparently I think she views in the same way as the fired prosecutors. Like, why are we supporting Ukraine? Well, clearly because we like Nazis, just like the rest of the entire European Union.
Congresswoman Harriet Hageman, thank you very much. We'll be watching to see what this committee does over the next couple of years. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks. You didn't say anything. That's great. Greta's disappointed. We can see it. She's she's got that look on her face, like, yep, I got this show on Newsmax, and these people can just roll in here and bullshit, and I can't say no because I'll get fired. So, well, shit. You're watching House Sparks Mega Worldwide.